In this video, I want to do a worked example for question 6. So question 6 is the descant, the counter melody above and chords above a given melody. So you're given the bottom line, as you can see, and you have to write the counter melody or descant above that, and you also have to write in the chords. It's very similar to question 5, the difference being that instead of writing a bass line, you're writing in treble clef, and it's going to be a counter melody, which is essentially written above the given melody rather than below it, like a bass line. So if you looked at the last video, the analysis and guidelines for this, you'll see that the first thing that I usually like to do is to write in the chords here, because that it makes everything else easier after that. It gives you a blueprint to decide which notes to use after that. I haven't got my chord boxes here like you would have on the actual exam paper, but I have written down how many chords I'm going to be using in each bar, because this comes from the 2014 paper, so I've written those down from that. So in our first bar, we're going to have, in bar 5, because they've given you the first 4 bars, in bar 5 we're going to have one chord. And I need to decide what chord is going to be there. So here's how I decide. So I can see we're in the key of E major from our first chord and from our key signature. So if you looked at the last video, you would have seen that we've got like a hierarchy of chords almost. The most important chord, and the one I'll always check if I can use first, is chord 1. Chord 1 in this case would be E. So I'm going to check if I can use chord 1, if I can use E. So I need to look at the notes they've given me and look at which notes are on the strong beats, on the actual beat, the main beats. So I've got a G sharp, I've got an E, I've got another E, and I've got another G sharp. Straight away, the notes of the chord for E are E, G sharp, and B. So I've got E, and G sharp on all of the beats in this bar. So that definitely tells me I can use chord 1, chord E. So I'm going to use chord 1 here. So it's going to be an E. Okay, in the next bar, bar 6, I have to write in 2 chords per the original exam paper. So I'm just going to split this rest so I can write it in. Okay, so I'm going to have a chord here and a chord here. They've given me an A note here, so I could have chord 4. I could have, what other notes in the key of, what other chords in the key of E have an A note in there? Well, I could use chord 2, which is F sharp minor. I could use chord 5/7, which would be a B. There's lots of different options. But what they've actually given me is an A and an F sharp. So I'm going to use chord 2. I'm going to use an F sharp minor. I could use chord 4. I could even use 5/7 here, but I'm going to use chord 2, F sharp minor. Okay. Next one, the notes they've given me it's just all B. So I'm going to use straight up the chord of B, chord 5. Okay. Next bar, I've got to write in 2 chords here, so I'm just going to split this rest again. Alright, so my first chord on the strong beats, I've got to note G sharp and B. So straight away that tells me I'm going to look for a chord with notes of G sharp and B in there. Now the only chords that could possibly be are E or G sharp minor in this particular key, but G sharp minor is chord 3, which we don't use. So we can't use G sharp minor, so that leaves us with one chord possible there, that is the chord of E. So that has to go in there. Next chord, I'm just remembering it right now, I'm at a cadence point here. I'm going to have one more chord here, and I'm going to have one chord in the last bar. So because I'm at a cadence point, I need to think about a strong cadence here. So what can I have? Well, I've got the notes of A and F sharp are going to be in this chord. So I could potentially have chord 2 here, but chord 2 going to something is not going to be a particularly strong cadence. I could have 2/5 if I could get chord 5 in here and have an imperfect cadence, but chord 5 doesn't really work with the notes in this bar. So I'm thinking A and F sharp. What other chord could have A and F sharp in there rather than chord 2? Well, one we could have is chord 5/7, B7. B7 is made up of the notes B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. So I'm going to have the chord of B7 in there. So that's chord 5/7, and that sets up with a really nice perfect cadence going to chord 1 here. I know we can have chord 1 in this bar because I've got the notes G sharp on the main strong beats. So already we've got our first 4 bars done there with just the chords written in at least. On the next line, the very first, in bar 9 here, the very first bar in the next line, I'm going to have 2 chords. So I'm just going to split my rest here again. So I need to think about what chords I can have here. So I've got an A and a C sharp. That C sharp ties over into the second half of the bar, and then I've got an A G sharp here. So the chords in this bar, both of them, the notes that we've got in there are A and C sharp. So you need to think about what chords in the key of E have the notes A and C sharp in there. There are two of them. There's chord 2, which is F sharp minor, which we had here before, and there's also chord 4, which is A. So the two chords in this bar, I'm probably going to use F sharp minor and A. I could use them in any order really, because they will work just fine in any order. But I'm going to use chord 2 going to chord 5. So I'm going to have an F sharp minor here for no particular reason. Just decided I'm going to have an F sharp minor rather than the F sharp minor first and the A second rather than the other way around. Okay, so every chord I'm choosing is going from our notes, which are just down here. Remember, you can't have the same chord in two consecutive boxes, so I couldn't just have A twice here. It has to be A and F sharp minor, because they're the only two chords that will work with these notes. So I've just gone in this particular order. The next bar, again, I have to split my rest because I've got two chords here. And the notes here are F sharp and D sharp, and then we've got an F sharp again. So I'm looking for chords in the key of E that have F sharp and D sharp in them, and I've got two of them. This one does get kind of tricky because the only chord I can really think of in the key of E that's got the notes of F sharp and D sharp in there is the chord B. So I could have B here, but then what do I have here? I can't have B twice in succession. I can't have the same chord twice. This does get a bit tricky when you have to think like, wait, there's only one chord that works here, but I've two chord boxes and I can't have the same chord in two of them. What do I do? This is a good place to use a seventh chord. So my first chord, I'm going to use B, which works just fine. But then B7, it actually counts as a different chord to B. And B7 also has the notes D sharp and F sharp in there. B7 has the exact same notes as B in it. You've just got an added seventh note. You got an A note added. And that actually works really well because as you can see in the melody, it's got F sharp A here. So it really sets up that B7 nicely because it's got D sharp, F sharp, A. All three of those notes come from the chord B7. Okay, so we've got in this bar we need to have another two chords. So I'm going to just split that again. And the notes they've given me in this half of the bar on the strong beats are G sharp and B. So again, I'm thinking chord 1. Chord 1 works just fine there, and it works really well after the B7 too, because you've got a little mini 5/1 cadence here. All right. Second half of the bar. Just remember again, we're coming up to a cadence point here, so this is a really important part. We want to have a really strong ending. Second half of the bar, I could jump straight in and try and work out what I'm going to have with this chord, but I've just looked ahead and I've seen that at our cadence points, we've got a D sharp. So that tells me straight away, that's the seventh note of the scale. That tells me straight away this is not going to be a perfect cadence, because we can't have a D sharp in it as one of the notes in a perfect cadence. That D sharp there comes from the chord of B, which leaves us sitting really nicely to end on a B note here, and it would be an imperfect cadence. An imperfect cadence is when you end on chord 5. So that just leaves this little gap in here. So what note are we going to have just before a B in our imperfect cadence? Well, the notes on the strong beats here are A and F sharp, and you may remember from earlier, those come from the chord of F sharp minor. There's no other key in E that works as well with those notes. So I'm going to have chord 2, F sharp minor in there. And that works really well. Chord 2 going to chord 5 is it's a really nice chord progression. So we've got two of our cadence points worked out now. We've got two whole lines of our harmony question worked out, at least in terms of the chords. Just down to the last line. So bar 13, we've only got one chord in this, according to the exam paper. And the notes on the strong beats are C sharp, E, G sharp, and E. And if you look you'll have your chord box at the top of your page when you're doing your exam. These all come from the chord of C sharp minor, which is chord 6 in the key of E. So we haven't used chord 6 at all yet, so it's nice to use it there. And the notes in this bar work really, really well with it. And this is one of the main things you're really trying to show when you're doing the harmony question, that you know which notes come from which chords, and you'll have all this done in your rough work in your little chord box at the top of the page. If you've got that filled in, it's just a case of looking at it, look at what notes you've got in the strong beats of the bar, look at which chord has those notes in it, and then write that chord in there. There's going to be a couple of little tricky places, like I showed you earlier, when you have to have a B and a B7, chord 5 and chord 5/7 in succession. But generally, that's how you do it. Okay, in this bar we've got two chords. I'm just going to split that. Um, so I'm looking at what notes you've got in strong beats here. We've got the note of A, and so we've got A twice. So that's I'm just going to stick in an A chord there. I could also have the chord of F sharp minor there, because F sharp minor also has the note of A in it, as we've seen before. But because I've got another chord to put in here, I'm going to save my F sharp minor for here, because I've actually got the notes of A and F sharp here. So this is much more of an F sharp minor moment in the second half of the bar. The last bar also has two chords in there, so I need to look at what I've got. So straight away, I've just noticed this. The very ending, the last two notes they've given me, has the chord of A going to G sharp. That straight away tells me that it's chord 5/7. And the reason it tells me that is, if you ever have the fourth note in the scale descending at a perfect cadence point to the third note in the scale, it's usually going to be chord 5/7. The reason being, this A here, which is the fourth note in the scale of E major, that is the seventh from B7. B7, like I said earlier, is made up of B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. A is the seventh. It's what gives it its name, B7. So if you've got that A there, right at a perfect cadence point, you're almost guaranteed that it's. And if you got this, the seventh from chord 5/7 at that cadence point, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to have chord 5/7 there. And if you've watched any of our previous videos, you'll know that you always end on chord 1. So the only thing I've got left to fill in now is this one chord here. And the note on our strong beats is on our main beats is B in both cases. So I could have chord 1 here, I could have chord 5. Either one will work fine. I'll use chord 5. Okay, I could have had chord 1 here, but I just decided to use chord 5. Okay, so I've got our chords written in there now, and like I said before, once you've got your chords written in, it really is a case of just filling in the gaps. Put in notes on your strong beats that work with that chord, notes from that chord, and everything between them will be passing notes and auxiliary notes. And those are the main things that you really need to think about. You also just remember, because you're running a descant, the melody you're writing should be above this lower melody. You should try not to go down below it. You should try not to cross your lines over. It's okay if you do it once or twice, but generally try to keep your main melody above. So I'm going to look at what notes to use. And remember, when I'm choosing my rhythms, I want to have rhythmic patterns that they've already given me in the melody as much as possible. So as I can see in the opening, they've got 4 quavers and 2 crotchets. Now I've also got 4 quavers and 2 crotchets here. So I'm going to use my rhythm above that the same as what they've used. I'm going to use just what they've got here: crotchet, minim, and 2 quavers. Okay, so crotchet on beat 1. They've got G sharp here. I'm going to use the note of E because it's one of the notes of chord E, which I haven't used already. Then I've got my minim. I'm going to mirror what they've done. They've jumped from B up to E. I'm going to jump from E back down to B. I'm just varying what they've already given me. I'm showing that I can develop what they've given me within the chord structure that I've got here. My 2 quavers. Okay, so at this point I'm thinking about what note comes next. So an F sharp minor comes next. I want to lead to a note of F sharp minor, and I want to lead from a note of E, one of the notes of E. So E is made up of E, G sharp, and B. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the note E here, one of the notes of this chord, and lead down to, I'm going to have a C sharp here for this F sharp minor. Okay, notes of F sharp minor are F sharp, A, and C. Okay, I'm doing really, really good so far. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep trying to choose rhythms that they've got up here. So like they've got 2 crotchets, and this crotchet is tied to a little run of quavers here. I'm going to do the same thing, but actually going to have 2 quavers here because I've already you happen to use the quaver on the F sharp minor. I'm aiming for a note of chord B. You're always looking at what chord comes next and you're aiming for that. I'm going to try and have, actually what will work really well here is if I can find a note, because I'm tying over like they've got up here, if I can find a note that works in both F sharp minor and in B, I can tie that over and it'll work really well. And there is one note. The one note that works with both F sharp minor and B is the note of F sharp. It's in both of those chords. So I'm going to jump up to an A here, because it's one of the notes of F sharp minor. But then I'm going to come back down to an F sharp here, and I'm going to tie that into a quaver here. Actually, I'm just going to undo that. There's an easier way to do this. So I'm going to tie that into a quaver note for that bar. Okay, let me just. Okay. Next, I'm looking at. I'm trying to target a note of chord E. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to try. What I'm going to do is frame the note. Oops. Sorry. Let me just correct that. So that should be back here a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to try and frame that note of chord E. My thing doesn't seem to be working here. I'm going to have to leave out the tie on this for the moment, but I will correct it later on. I'm going to frame the note of chord E by choosing two notes around it. And they're both notes from chord B. It's going to be a D sharp and an F sharp. Those are both notes of chord B, and they go right below and right above. That's what I mean by frame a note of chord E, and that note is the note E itself. I'm going to have a big long minim here just to take up the whole bar. Okay, save me a little bit of work. So next we have our B7 going to E. I'm actually going to use the exact same device, just like I had B going to E here, but I don't have the exact same melody, so I'm going to do the same thing down a third. And this works really well because on my strong beats, I've still got notes of chord B. I've got a D sharp and a B, and I'm using a little melodic fragment that I've already used, so it shows that I'm developing something. I'm going to end on my do here. Okay, so doing really, really well so far. Next thing I want to do is I need to look at what notes are coming up next. So I'm going to use two crotchets in this last bar, so that I've essentially got continuous crotchet movement between the two parts, and I'm going to be aiming for a note of F sharp. So what I can do is I'm going to do this framing thing again. I'm going to frame the note C sharp, which is one of the chords of F sharp. So I've gone above it and then below it. So I've framed it just like that. Okay, and then I go and land on that with a quaver. So I'm on F sharp minor and I'm targeting a note of A. What I'm going to do is just something like this. So my strong beats, I've got C sharp and F sharp, which are both notes of the chord of F sharp minor. Then I've done my framing thing again. This time I'm framing the note of E. I've gone above it and below it, and E is one of the notes of the chord of A. Okay, and I'll just use a C sharp here. Again, it's a note of chord A, and it leads nicely into a B note to go with my B here. Okay. Actually, I'm going to get a little sequence going here. So I've got I'm going to do exactly what I did in this bar. I'm going to do it a step lower so that it goes to the B chord. It's actually not, it won't work out the exact same. It's going to be very similar to this, but it won't work out the exact same because I'm trying to have B and D sharp on my strong beats. So it works the same. I'm aiming for another B7 here, and I want to really emphasize that this is B7. This is actually a really important part. I've just had the chord of B, and I've gotten to B7. I really want to emphasize that I'm now on a B7. I've changed. It's not a B anymore. So I'm going to have the very first thing I'm going to do is the note of A, which is the 7th, as I mentioned before, of B7. So I've got the note of A there, and then I'm going to jump up to the D sharp, which is also a note of chord B7. The reason I'm jumping up to that is because it leads nicely to an E note here, which goes with our E chord. So I've really emphasized my 7th there. Then I've jumped up to a D sharp, which leads nicely to the E, this E chord here. Next, I'm thinking about how am I going to target one of the notes of F sharp minor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lead down to it like this. I'm going to go E, D sharp, and that's going to lead down to a C sharp note on our F sharp minor chord here. This time I'm targeting the note B over here. Okay, so all this time I'm trying to be conscious not to go below this lower melody. I'm trying to target one of the notes of chord B. I'm going to target the note B here. I could also try and target an F sharp or a D sharp if I wanted, but I'm going to go for the note B. Now, first thing I'm going to do is start on a note of F sharp minor because I have to with this chord. I just chose the note C sharp. On my next strum beat, which is here, I want to have another note of F sharp minor, so I'm going to go down diatonically like this, and aim for this A note, which is another one of the notes of F sharp minor, and that actually works really well. Like I said, I'm just going to frame this B note here. That actually works really well because I've got a little run going down here, and they've also got the same thing here, a third below it. So we've got a little run of thirds here, which is quite nice. Okay, I've got my B chord, and I'm looking at targeting a note of C sharp minor. So I'm just going to choose which note I'm going to target. I'm going to target the note E at the beginning of this bar. The chord C sharp minor is made up of C sharp, E, and G sharp. So I'm going to try and target the note of E here. I could target one of the others if I wanted, but I've just chosen to target the note of E. And I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to have notes from chord B on all my strong beats here. So I've got a B, a D sharp. I'm going to jump up to an F sharp. Remember, I'm always trying to have notes of the chord on a strong beat. Not a strong beat, I've got a D sharp. Then I'm going to frame the note of E like I did before. And then I'm going to have my E down here. Okay. What they've got here, they've got a little run of quavers and two crotchets. And if I look up here, I've noticed they've actually done that before. And in the melody, they've got crotchet followed by a long minim. I've actually done it in bar 5 as well. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I've got a crotchet in this bar. I'm going to have a long minim here. And I might as well have it on the note C sharp. It's the strongest possible note of the chord is C sharp minor, so I'm going to have that there. Next, I'm trying to target a note of A. So the notes of A are A, C sharp, and E. So I'm trying to target one of those notes. I could have something leading down to the note A. I could have something leading up to the note E, but I'm going to go for C sharp. I'm going to do that by having on my strong beat here, I have one of the notes of C sharp minor, it's an E, and that's going to lead down to, on my strong beat here, a C sharp for the chord of A. Okay. Next thing I'm doing, I'm targeting a note of F sharp, and I'm going to stick to my crotchets because it's just making things a little bit easier for me. So I have my C sharp here. I'm going to have another note from chord A on a strong beat here. I'm going to have the note of E. And that leads me nicely up to a F sharp here. Now I'm going to have quavers here because I want to break up the monotony of just I don't have too many crotchets in a row. Next thing, I'm thinking my strong beats. What notes of F sharp could I have? You know what? I'm actually going to break that rule here. You can do that. You can break the rules sometimes a little bit. I'm not going to have a note of F sharp in a strong beat. The reason I'm not going to is I can go down diatonically and it will lead me right down to a B note, which is perfect for the chord of B. So it leads me right down to that in a nice little way. After that, I'm trying to get a note of B7. Now, like I said before, I really want to emphasize that it's the 7th. It is now no longer a B chord, it's B7. So I'm really going to be aiming for the note A because that's what distinguishes B from B7. So on this beat, I really want to aim for the note A. I'm going to do that by going down to an F sharp, which is one of the notes of B. As you can see, I have actually crossed the melodies here, which, like I said before, you can do it once or twice in your melody, but you don't want to do it very often. Then I'm going to jump back up and land on my note A. After that, I'm aiming for note E here. I'm going to do a straight up B7 arpeggio. I'm just going to play the notes of the chord in some order. I'm going to play them in ascending order. So the notes are B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. Those are the notes of the chord of B7. I'm already on A, so the next one if I'm to go ascending was B. Next one after that would be D sharp, and the next one after that would be F sharp. And then I'm going to try and land on my do, on my home note of E. Okay, so that is a basic worked example of question 6. I'm just going to play that now so that you can hear what it sounds like.